Hello YouTube, this is Riddle Traymain here, and I want to talk about a additional strategy that you can implement with the voiceless voice archetype. One of the parts of the strategy I want to talk about is the Starry Night archetype. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, the Starry Night archetype, for those who don't know, is a light fairy monster archetype that focuses on powerful dragon-themed monsters and strategic support cards. Known as the Holy Knights in the OCG, this archetype was released as legacy support for the Sairuru card. Excuse me for my pronunciation. The core monsters of the archetype include Starry Night Astel, Starry Night CL, Starry Night Flamel, and Starry Night Orbitiel. The ritual and synchro support cards like Starry Night Ceremony, Starry Night Sky help and summon powerful dragons. For the extra deck, the archetype has strong synergy with dragons, including monsters like the Starry Night Starry Dragon and Celestial Night Lord. For utility and recursion, cards like Starry Night Rael provide search effects and graveyard recursion, enhancing the deck's consistency and resilience. Basically, the strategy of the Starry Night archetype is to utilize its light fairy monsters to support and summon and enhancement of powerful dragon monsters by combining ritual and synchro summoning mechanics with strategic support cards. Players can create a formidable and versatile deck capable of handling various matchups. In general, for me, when I came to building a test deck, is looking at how can I make this voice engine a little bit more consistent, even in times where it's as consistent as it's going to be. And the Starry Night cards is a strategy, whether it's the first time someone implemented it or not, that I find is very useful. So one of the cards I like to talk about is Rael. It has an ability that when it's normal summoned, you can add one Starry Night spell or trap from the deck to the hand, and you can banish this card from the graveyard to target Starry Night monster in my grave except itself to special summon it. It's a good way to be able to get access to any of the Starry Night spells or traps that you implement in the deck, but I only use four unique ones and a field spell, which actually adds some recursion abilities for voiceless voice. The Orbitiel is a unique one because I can target a light monster I control, tribute it, and then I can set a Starry Night spell or trap directly from my deck. And if a level 7 light dragon monster is returned to the hand while it's in the grave, I can special summon this card. Well, I found that Sorrowfus, the normal monster, and the ritualist monster has abilities that allow them to return to the hand. So if this card happens to be in the graveyard and you use Sorrowfus, either the ritual or the normal monster's effect, you can recursion this card back to the field, special summoning it. This also has good recursion with the spell cards Starry Night Sky, and Starry Night Sky has a cool ability that if you were to return a level 7 dragon monster, you could draw a card. So if any of Sorrowfus were to be sent back to the hand, you can go ahead and draw an additional card, at least to set up for some follow-up for the following turn. The other cards I'll use for Starry Night is Balefire. I get to add one Starry Night monster or a level 7 light dragon monster from the deck to my hand. Then if I control no monsters or my opponent controls a dark monster, I can special summon one level 7 light dragon monster from the hand. Again, this allows you to set up for either the one copy of Starry Night Starry Dragon I have in the deck, or allows you to get Sorrowfus on the field a lot faster, which can help get with some more ritual plays, and as well as this continuous spell card Starry Night Ceremony. During my main phase, you can reveal one light fairy monster in your hand, and if you do, add one level 7 light dragon monster from my deck to the hand, then place the revealed monster on the bottom of the deck. If your opponent activates a card or effect, you can special summon one level 7 light dragon monster from your hand using Starry Night Ceremony's effect as a once per turn effect. So basically, The way I strategize with this is to be able to get access to level 7 monsters out on the board a lot quickly and be able to recursion them back to the hand, triggering other card effects. This actually gives you some backup support if necessary, and you can build upon how you can expand the archetype with that. Of course, with this test deck, I placed the Cashtira monsters in there because it's just another way for me to be able to summon level 7 monsters without, needing sacrifices, and I can get access to their abilities a lot quicker. One of the key strategies, however, is this card Starry Night. What the Starry Night monsters help me do is get access to level 4 monsters really quickly, or at least the way I designed it is to help me get access to level 4 monsters really quickly. And with Starry Night, you get to special summon a night monster from your hand, and I could target one level 4 light fairy monster I control and special summon this card. So for whatever reason this card is in the graveyard and I happen to use Sarvis effect, I could get access to any of the Starry Night's abilities that recursion themselves, and I get to summon this card back out for practically free at that point. While I understand that this version of it is just nothing more than a test, and I have been playing around with other versions of the deck, I find that this is the most consistent version of the deck that I have been able to build and stay. And I find the level of recursion of this deck being pretty good. Now, another strategy that I find it's new, but I think just from how it's designed could actually be good support for the voiceless voice archetype, if not for any other light dragon or monsters, is the ancient fairy dragon support. Now, we have realized that the ancient fairy dragon getting support is actually what's going to help change some synchro strategies and even some retro strategies to make them a little bit more consistent or just make them playable. The card technically that I'm looking at the most is Regulus the Fairy Beast. If this card is normal or special summon, you get to add one spell or trap that mentions Ancient Fairy Dragon from your deck to your hand. During your main phase, you can special summon one level 4 lower light beast, plant, or fairy monster from the hand in defense position. You can banish this card from the grave to target a field spell in your graveyard, place it at the bottom of the deck that is the draw card. Now, this is a retrain of the Regulus that we had a long time ago, and it also maintained the similar ability of Regulus, which just allows you to recursion field spells in the graveyard, but at least you get a draw off of it this time. The main reason I thought about the Ancient Fairy Dragons being implemented in the strategy is mainly Regulus right here. Being able to special summon Novox, especially if I have to sacrifice a normal summon, is very good. This allows me to set up my forces for strategy, while at the same time I can always have Ancient Fairy support and prepared. I've also built a test deck with that, which I'm going to show in a minute, but I really want to go through the Ancient Fairy support when I show off the test deck. So give me a moment. This is the deck that I was talking about. I call this Voiceless Voice of the Fairy. This is the Voiceless Voice archetype using the new Ancient Fairy monsters. As you see, it does implement a synchro strategy as well as maintaining bits of the Link and Exceed strategy that I had previously in my original deck. And what I found in testing this strategy is that it helps me easily get access to fairy monsters, which is great for the Voiceless Voice, but also it helps me set up some really decent synchro plays that I don't want to talk too heavily upon it because I want to be able to advance the strategy a little bit more. I want to see how I can implement the Starry Night cards into this deck. So I'm going to give you a couple of deck tests I have with some computer generated decks, and then we can still test a new build as well. Before I give some non-commentary deck testing with the previous decks I have shown, I want to go over the new Ancient Fairy support that was announced a couple of days ago. Since I already talked about Regulus recently, I'm not going to give you a rehash of its effect, but I will talk about the other monster abilities and other spell and trap abilities that I find could actually benefit the voiceless voice archetype or use other synchro strategies. One is Spore, the Fairy Cell. It is a light plant level 1 monster with a 400 attack and 800 defense. It is also a tuner. If this card is special summoned, you can increase its level up to the number of monsters you control. If this card is in your graveyard and you control Ancient Fairy Dragon or a light beast, plant, or fairy monster, you can special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except synchro monsters. You can only use this card's effect once per turn. What I think of this is an interesting way to extend with cards that you control, and from what I understand about these new Ancient Fairy support, they all have some level of cohesion that allows you to get them on the field fairly easy and allows you to synchro summon really quickly. I think with Spore I can get some level 7 or higher synchro monsters out a lot faster, and you'll be able to see the end with the voiceless voice with low. As long as low is on the board, you can special summon it and you can at least guarantee a level 2 or a level 3 tuner. Next is a retrain, Kuribon the Fairy Sprite. Now I would like to return and say Spore is also a retrain. This retrain is a light fairy level 1 monster with 300 attack, 200 defense, and it reads: if you control Ancient Fairy Dragon or a light beast, plant, or fairy monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you do, it is treated as a tuner. If another Ancient Fairy Dragon or monsters that mention it that you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can return this card from the field to the hand instead. You can only use each effect once per turn. Well, Kuribon, if I'm not mistaken, is another way to recursion cards. It's an additional way to get another tuner on the board. So if you wanted to do some quick synchro summonings, you could do it with Kuribon. I don't think Kuribon is the strongest when it comes to this, maybe a one of it at best, but it's a decent card compared to its original, and I would love to see a little bit more from this archetype as it grows. The field spell, the World of Spirits, is pretty decent. Its ability is when this card is activated, you can add one monster that mentions Ancient Fairy Dragon from your deck to the hand. You can only activate each of the following effects of the World of Spirits while you control a level 7 or higher Light Dragon Synchro monster. Each time a monster or monsters is special summoned in attack position, change it to defense position once per turn. During the end phase, destroy all the turn players' attack position monsters. You can only activate this card once per turn. This card is going to be annoying. It's going to force a lot of monsters that your opponent and yourself to switch it to defense mode, and it's going to just help be another board wipe if your opponent switches any of them into attack position prior to them being flipped into defense. The last main deck card is the Continuous Trap Eternal Sunshine. Eternal Sunshine says, monsters you control gain 500 defense for each Ancient Fairy Dragon and monsters that mention it that you control. Once per chain, you can target a face-up monster my opponent controls. Until the end of this turn, its current attack and defense become half. Also, its effects are negated. You can use this effect of Eternal Sunshine a number of times per turn, up to the number of Ancient Fairy Dragon and monsters that mention it that you control. So to put it simple, there are 3 new cards, 3 new monsters. You have the new Synchro, the original Ancient Fairy Dragon, and then there's an Ancient Fairy Pixie card, if I'm not mistaken. So generally, you can activate this card a number of times per chain that allows you to negate and attack and defense modulate one of your opponent's monsters. So if one of my opponents is able to summon a big strong monster and they think they're going to go for game, as any of these low level monsters could allow me to negate any abilities that it has, weaken it, and I can also have time to retaliate with any of the other card effects. Now lastly, we're going to talk about is the new Synchro, and it's called Ancient Fairy Life Dragon. This is a light dragon level 8 Synchro with 2500 attack and 3300 defense. It requires 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner monsters. If this card is Synchro summoned, you can draw 1 card, or if the World of Spirits is on the field, add 1 light beast, plant, or fairy monster, or 1 Eternal Sunshine from your deck to your hand instead. You can only use this effect of Ancient Fairy Life Dragon once per turn. Your Ancient Fairy Dragon and monsters that mention it can attack while in face-up defense position. If they do, apply their defense for damage calculation. Basically, this is a gimmick in a sense that you will be able to have all your monsters that special summon themselves flip into defense mode, and you can basically battle with them being in defense position. Eternal Sunshine helps with that because it increases all of their defense, and you can quickly climb the ranks when it comes to defense, especially with all these monsters. So even with these, you can see a 1500 defense increase, but also you can see, but this doesn't just affect Ancient Fairy cards, it affects all monsters. So what I found best using with this deck, with my voice deck, is being able to switch low into defense position, increase her defense to where if battle was going to be a reason she's going to be destroyed, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and I can go ahead and double increase or the amount of damage my opponent can take by these modulation abilities. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch to the deck plays, and then we're going to end this video and see you next week. Thank you.